You're back in school. Pick any year of any class, it doesn't matter. You're sitting there minding your own business, waiting to get out of there staring at the clock every other second. You're half-heartedly paying attention to the teacher. Their voice is coming in and out in waves. You realize you're slacking off and decide to engage yourself back onto them. The teacher asks a question and the class is silent. No one wants to raise their hand to answer. You know the answer. You feel the urge to have your hand creep out from under your desk and go into the air in a limp, half-cocked way. But as soon as you feel that twitch, you stop yourself. Maybe your heart is pounding a bit. You don't end up answering the question, and the teacher ends up having to answer their own question. It turns out, your answer that was in your head and never escaped your mouth was right. So why didn't you raise your hand? It was the fear of rejection. The fear of having all your peers laugh at you and make you feel less than. To make you feel like a fucking loser. It's human nature to want to connect and to want to fit in with society and be one with those around us. Whether it be school, work, or our friend groups. But there's one crucial area in our life, possibly the most crucial aspect of our life, that we should not have to feel obligated to fit in or prove ourselves. And that's with our loved ones, our family. Our families, our parents, are the ones that shape us and teach us how to grow as a person. But what happens when they are the main ones to constantly put us down and treat us despicably? What does that end up doing to a person and their mindset? Meet James Morgan McGill. He is seen as a polite guy who doesn't take things too seriously and has a great time everywhere he goes, creating friends and acquaintances along the way. Now meet Saul Goodman. Real sleazy asshole who only wants money and doesn't even try to hide it. He will do whatever he needs to do in order to get an upper hand in life. He has no boundaries. What led a person like Jimmy, who is trying to do the right thing, go down such a dark path? In an article written by Anish Halalhal for familyrelationshipblog.wordpress.com titled, "Does Family Shape Our Identity?" it states, family interactions can build up or break down an individual's self-confidence. A united community family, for example, can help children gain self-confidence. Children who are allowed and encouraged to pursue their own choices typically gain a greater sense of confidence and individuality. Family activities such as camping or community service can also instill skills that help children build self-confidence. Conversely, a family that is often critical of a child's performance may lead to reduced self-esteem. It goes on to additionally say, family life also influences occupational identity and career choices. Families that enforce standards and encourage hard work often raise more motivated, ambitious children, whereas a hostile family environment may produce less motivated children who lack the skills to succeed in a career. Jimmy is an odd character that actually learned self-confidence from a lack of self-confidence that he witnessed his father, who was so polite and so well-mannered that he allowed people to constantly take advantage of him. Jimmy realized in his own mind that he needed to be a wolf and not a sheep. But he can overly exaggerate his self-confidence to hide the lack of self-confidence he does have when he feels like he is way over his head into some serious shit. That is what the Saul Goodman persona is. It's a defense mechanism to protect himself and all the fear he has deep down inside. And if he's a big enough asshole, he's untouchable. When he fell too deep the first time around and got busted for small cons, nothing close to what was later gonna come of his life. He pleaded to his lawyer brother Chuck to get him out and help him reform. Jimmy truly wants to do good. He wants to so bad that he takes inspiration from the person that he respects the most, Chuck, his only immediate blood family he has left. The only problem is that Jimmy respects Chuck, but Chuck doesn't respect Jimmy. He will always see Jimmy as a con artist, this street kid that didn't do anything important with his life. Why was Jimmy who he was back in Chicago? Easy. He was tired of seeing the hard work of his father go nowhere. He thought the only way to be something was to take it for yourself. Now in his present state with Chuck, he sees it's possible to be something and still be a righteous member of society. So what does he decide to do? In order to get his brother's respect, he becomes a lawyer in secret, practicing for years studying to get his law degree. And he passes his bar exam, getting sworn in as a practicing officer of the court for the state of New Mexico. And that wasn't good enough for good old Chuck. Jimmy got an honest job at Chuck's law firm as a mailman, spent years of his life studying to become a lawyer, took care of Chuck at the worst time in his life, started to build an actual successful career out of his law, and yet Chuck still didn't respect him or take him seriously. In fact, he treated Jimmy like a nuisance. He treated him like a beggar for attention. He treated him like nothing, when all Jimmy did was genuinely love him and want to see that he is becoming a proper member of society. But Chuck, his only family, did not even give him the chance of being anything meaningful. In Chuck's own mind, he thought he gave him a chance already by taking him to Albuquerque, and all he saw was all the minor things that Jimmy did that were not up to Chuck's social standards. He never even attempted to understand who Jimmy is and why he does and has done the things he despises. And to add a cherry on top of that, he hits him with,
"You've never mattered all that much to me."
Childhood plays the most crucial role in our development as an adult and is how our brain is hardwired to be for the rest of our lives unless we learn how to rewire it ourselves. In an article written for Chrysalis Courses, a UK online publication, titled How Our Childhood Affects Our Adult Life, it states, "Our childhood experiences affect our behavior and personality into adulthood, even if we're not aware of the existence of this connection." Adulthood could be seen as an extension of your childhood experience. A person will try to fulfill their childhood desires when they become an adult in a way that is acceptable by society and culture. The article goes on to explain the various differences in attachments of children, and there was one that really caught my eye called disorganized attachment, which they defined it as arises from fright without solutions. This form of attachment can arise from abuse, neglect, or unresolved trauma or loss. The effect of this into adulthood is resulting in the individuals not being able to make sense of their experiences. They may have difficulties expressing themselves and will be unable to self-soothe. They will have issues with trust and struggle in relationships. It is clear that childhood has an effect on our adulthood, not being able to make sense of their experiences. In doing this, we form dysfunctional behaviors, which then can lead to mental health problems. There is a lot to break down here, so let's number them off together. Number 1, arises from fright and solutions. Throughout all his time in Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, you see Jimmy as the guy who always has a plan. He is rarely without one, and when he is, you can clearly see him petrified. The best example to use is from the first season when Tuco kidnaps him and the brothers after they had a little mix-up involving Tuco's grandma. You can see Jimmy freaking out eternally, and it's going to start to seep outwards. But once he comes up with a plan to get them out of there, you see how cool-headed he can become to solve the problem. Jimmy hates being cornered into a situation he can't control, so he does everything he can to control all the situations that come his way. A more recent example is from the latest and final season of Better Call Saul, where Jimmy and Kim have one of the most heartbreaking scenes in television history, and Kim attempts to break it off with Jimmy. He freaks out and has a meltdown after he tried controlling the situation and it failed. He needs everything to be in order or else he'll feel like he's drowning. He doesn't want to leave things up to other people because he feels like he can do it the best. Number 2, can arise from abuse, neglect, or unresolved trauma and loss. So clearly the show does not state that Jimmy was abused. He most likely wasn't. He had 2 great parents that loved him, but maybe they did not give him enough attention. Maybe they did neglect him. It was a bit hard to tell. The show barely shows Jimmy's childhood life, so we have to infer what we can. But we can list it as a possibility for sure, and that everything he did during his childhood as slipping Jimmy was him acting out and seeking the attention he doesn't get, which is something that irritated Chuck. We know his mother gave him enough attention as for another reason why Chuck resents Jimmy. But what about the father? Who knows, to be honest, but the unresolved trauma that definitely applies even if we take away the childhood aspect of things. But to try and stay on focus on the topic of this chapter, we can look at the father's death. It is never stated when Jimmy's father died, so it could have been in his late teens and could have added more to that feeling of loss and neglect. Now to shift a bit real quick, you see every pain, trauma, and loss in Jimmy's adult life not being handled with as he brushes off each and every incident that has happened to him. That is something he most likely learned to do during childhood experiences. Maybe the loss of his father, whom he felt guilty for stealing money from. Maybe the guilt was so much he pushed it away and blamed other things for it, just the same way he placed the guilt on Howard for Chuck's death, so Jimmy doesn't have any guilt for the embarrassment he caused Chuck, which most likely led to his demise. Number 3. Not being able to make sense of their experiences, they may have difficulties expressing themselves and will be unable to self-soothe. This is a defiant trait of Jimmy. Better Call Saul is the most realistically written anything I've ever seen. It's so realistic that a lot of the times characters act a certain way or end up doing something drastic, and they're never told why. You as an audience member have to find out what their reasoning for their actions mean, and there isn't a character that does this more than Jimmy. A good chunk of the time, it doesn't even seem like he knows why he does the things he does. You never actually get a good pinpoint on whether he does things solely for greed or for the thrill of excitement. Sometimes you don't know if he's doing something out of guilt or because he hopes these acts of kindness can lead to an upper hand in a situation. These internal struggles Jimmy has within himself makes it difficult for him to open up with anyone and express himself, causing him not to be close with anyone beyond Kim at the end of the day. Number 4. We form dysfunctional behaviors which then can lead to mental health problems. Jimmy 100% has a dysfunctional personality, constantly doing things off of emotion, and most of the time acting out in shady, illegal, and immoral ways. He is struggling with depression and PTSD over the situations he put himself through, and closing himself off to everyone eventually. He has mental illness and does not want to address it, and all the depression could have started in his childhood, and he never learned how to cope with it properly, wanting to act out as Slipping Jimmy instead. I was attempting to find online studies in an article form linking to how the people closest to us are the ones that can hurt us the most. But I literally couldn't find any, so I found what we can use in all attemptive purposes as a study from a quite creative YouTuber named Thariya Maranzi, who makes videos where she asks strangers deep and thought-provoking questions. The one video we will be looking at real quick is titled, "What is the most painful thing you've been told?" She asked 38 individuals the same question, and out of the 38, 2 people referenced their friends, 7 referenced their family, and 11 referenced a significant other, and then 18 people I categorized as other, whether it be a stranger, someone in a professional or medical setting letting them know about an unfortunate news, and then lastly for those who could not clearly identify who told them. So to not mess with my study too much, I played it safe and assumed it to be a stranger if they did not give any context clues or explicitly say who it was. But that's left with an astounding 52.6% of people saying that a loved one, whether that be a friend, family member, or significant other, said the most hurtful thing they have experienced. And of course, out of those 3 categories of what we will be calling the loved ones, significant other took the cake by far, with 11 out of the 20 people that go under the entirety of the loved ones category. We have mentioned how family can shape who we become and how harmful that can be. What we now need to take into consideration is that family is not the most harmful to someone's emotional well-being. That would be significant others by far, and here's why. In an article written by Courtney Hardwick for Blonde.com titled, "Why the People You Love Are the Ones Who Hurt You the Most," lists 10 reasons why these type of people hurt us so much. Number 1, they make us vulnerable. Number 2, we give them too many chances. Number 3, we expect more from them. Number 4, we took a chance on them. Number 5, if we didn't care, they couldn't hurt us. Number 6, we trusted them more than anyone. Number 7, we blame ourselves for trusting them. Number 8, they use our feelings against us. Number 9, they don't think that they deserve our love. And number 10, we saw a future with them. Now we're going to look at the most crucial moment in Jimmy's life which pushed him to become Saul Goodman, his breakup with Kim, and how the relationship meets this list we have gathered. When you look at their entire relationship, specifically through Jimmy's point of view, he was the most vulnerable with her than any other character we see him interact with, whether it be in Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul. He sees her value and constantly wants to push her to do more with her life because he sees her potential. He took a chance on trying to connect with someone on more than a sexual intimacy. He had to learn how to be emotionally open and share his life with her. He definitely did not believe she could hurt him the way she ended up doing. He for sure trusted her more than anyone he's ever trusted. You can see that by their relationship. You can probably presume he blamed himself for trying to have a relationship with anyone on that level, which you can see he overcorrects in Breaking Bad by cutting off all emotional ties with people and treats everyone like shit. Because once again, if he's a big enough asshole, he is untouchable. Look at his first few interactions with Francesca in Better Call Saul versus how he ends up talking to her in Breaking Bad. A stark difference. You can see on both sides of their relationship that they think they don't deserve each other. And most importantly, they both saw a future with each other, so much so that they got married. They made it seem like it was only for legality's sake to keep themselves safe after all the shenanigans. But you can tell they wouldn't have done that if they didn't absolutely love and trust each other. When you see how Saul is with women versus how he is with Kim, it is breathtakingly different and shows his deep love for Kim, making it so heartbreaking when you see him beg her to stay, pleading to her as she is the last remaining thing keeping him as Jimmy McGill, and is doing everything he can to not be alone, and yet she leaves, causing Jimmy McGill to die and Saul Goodman to be born. Jimmy died because of a broken heart. Jimmy's sense of morality is never clearly stated within the show. He is a character that has so much confliction that you don't truly ever fully understand where he is coming from at times. And stated earlier, you don't know if he's gonna do things for greed or out of the kindness of his own heart. It's hard to pinpoint. You can tell that there is guilt within him. You can tell that he feels like he isn't normal and shouldn't be doing the things he does, but he feels like he can't help himself, that he has an itch and it won't go away. So the question is, where does morality come from and how can we use that to determine Jimmy's mindset? In an article published by psychologytoday.com, written by Ralph Lewis, who is a licensed psychiatrist based in Toronto, Canada, titled, "Where Does Morality Come From?" He states, morality can be understood as a natural characteristic emerging from traits that are based on instinct and emotion, and shaped by reason, evolving in an intensely social context. Humans certainly also have natural tendencies toward violence, cruelty, and selfishness, but pro-social, cooperative traits have held the overall advantage over antisocial, violent tendencies in both biological and cultural evolutionary adaptation. Cooperation and compassion have taken an especially strong lead over violence and cruelty in a modern, educated, secular, democratic society. When contrasted with most of human history, reason and rigorous critical thinking are our best tools in this ongoing process of societal improvement. Societal ethics and compassion are achieved solely through human action. We have only ourselves and our fellow human beings to rely on in this collective human project. Now, to simplify that, it's basically saying that our understanding of morality comes from our interactions with those we surround ourselves with the most, whether that be purposely or non-purposely. And our brain absorbs it like a sponge, taking in all that information. And our brain absorbs the most amount of information in our developmental years as children. In fact, 90% of our brain growth happens before the age of 5. Children's minds are information sponges, taking in everything they see. Now, my theory for Jimmy's behavior and morality stems from a place of slight neglect. As stated earlier, we know Jimmy's mom loved him, and Chuck was annoyed because Jimmy could always make her laugh, something he himself could not do. But you can tell it became a necessity in Jimmy's life to make people comfortable and have them be able to relate to him, something he does not do as Saul, and something Jimmy weaponizes throughout the whole show. He weaponizes how kind and relatable of a person he truly is deep down inside, and I believe it came from a place of, if I don't make my mother laugh, she won't know I exist. Same as where Chuck believed if he did not get the best grades, go to the best schools, and get the best career, his family will not care for him. They both try to stand out in their own ways to seek attention and approval from their parents. And with the few flashbacks you saw of Jimmy's childhood, you see that Jimmy's dad would leave him alone to run the store, and it seems like it was a normal and consistent thing. And it is expressed multiple times that his father practically worked himself to death. So he was so busy that he wasn't around all that much, and as theorized earlier, he might have died in Jimmy's teens, leaving the rest of his developmental stage of his life fatherless, already adding to the fact that his father was not present enough. Now this brings Jimmy to the conclusion that he needs to do things to get attention, whether it be good or bad. And after a while, he realizes he always gets more attention for his bad behavior, now beginning to condition his mind that if he keeps up the slipping Jimmy bit, he will always find the attention he wants. And that even extended to his relationship with Kim. She was intrigued by his wildness and rule-breaking persona. That kept her addicted to him because, as she said,
"Because I was having too much fun."
So to go back to Saul Goodman, it adds more context to the "if I'm such an asshole, I'm untouchable" ideology. It also fuels him with more notoriety. You see, all throughout Better Call Saul, you see that Jimmy has an inkling for filmmaking and is very meticulous about making every commercial or film project a masterpiece. And you clearly see that he's good at it. Yet, his Better Call Saul commercials in Breaking Bad are horrendous. Why? When he did his first commercial as Saul Goodman, he hated it. So why change his mind? Because the over-the-top awful quality of those commercials grab people's attention because of how bad they are. And he knows it. And he plays it up. And guess what? He is a local celebrity by the time we see him in Breaking Bad. He got his stardom. Just for all the wrong reasons. In conclusion, our morality stems from those we surround ourselves the most with. And who would that be? Our loved ones. The people we care about the most. We pick up habits, mannerisms, ideologies, hobbies, interests, sometimes taste in food or fashion. They help shape our identity. We draw a thing or two from the people we love. It's our way of keeping them with us. Now, if these people are causing us harm, it is likely that it will have a mental effect on who we become. And the longer and more important their role is in our lives, it could destroy us. If the people around Jimmy just tried to understand him and help him instead of chastise and harass, maybe they could have saved him from going down the dark path he chose. We as brothers, sisters, mothers, fathers, friends, co-workers have a responsibility to uplift those closest to us. So, the next time you see someone you love struggling, don't ignore it. Lend them that helping hand, because they might be too scared to ask for it.